I like the idea of the job a lot. I mean, I don't want to sort of like, you know, I get to think about things I want to think about. I get to, you know, I get to write jokes that sometimes make people laugh, and I mean, it's a great job, but it's very hard for me.
Sure.
It's like, it's not, I don't, you know, I don't sit at my desk and laugh, you know. That's very, very rare, you know. Mostly I sit at my desk and look at stuff online. It's mostly what I do, because I can't think. Allow your screenplay to grow and change as you work on it. You will discover things as you work. You must not put these things aside, even if they are inconvenient. Let's not disregard all the little voices in order to simplify. Do not simplify. Let's not worry about what it looks like. Let's not worry about failure. Failure is a badge of honor. It means you risked failure. And if you don't risk failure, you're never going to do anything that's different than what you've already done or what somebody else has done. And just know that that's the choice you're making when you won't put yourself at jeopardy like that. Don't compartmentalize to make things simpler than they are. And don't work towards results. Allow yourself time. Let things brew. You're thinking about it, whether you realize it or not. Letting the unconscious take over brings in freedom and surprise and removes judgment. At every single moment, every single person wants something. Often many things. Often conflicting things. Understand this about your characters and yourself. Storytelling is inherently dangerous. If you consider a traumatic event in your life, consider it as you experienced it. Now think about how you told it to someone a year later. Now think about how you told it for the 100th time. It's not the same thing. A few components enter into the change. One is perspective. Most people think perspective is a good thing to have in a story. You can figure out character arcs. You can apply a moral. You can tell it from a distance with understanding and context. The problem is that this perspective is a misrepresentation of the incident. It's a reconstruction with meaning, and as such bears very little resemblance to the event. The other thing that happens in storytelling is the process of adjustment for the audience over time. You find out which part of the story works, which parts to embellish, which parts to jettison. You fashion it. Your goal, your reasons for telling it, are to be entertaining, to garner sympathy. This is true for a story told at a dinner party, and it's true for stories told in movies. There are so many pitfalls when a movie comes out that it's hard to enjoy it when it comes out. I mean, obviously, if a movie does well and is critically, you know, well received, and I like it, but I'm so needful of it, that kind of response, that I don't think, it doesn't feel good. It just feels less bad, you know? Because it feels really bad when people say mean things. It feels bad.
Yeah.
And I kind of wish that it didn't, but it does, and it does for me, and so that's me.
John, don't tell me. Mapplethorpe?
Malkovich.
Malkovich. Right, okay.
With a screenplay, you're creating a world. Consider everything, every character, every room, every juxtaposition, every increment of time as an embodiment of that world. Look at all of this through that filter and make sure it is all consistent. As in a painting, every element is part of one whole composition. Just as there is nothing separate in the actual world, there should be nothing separate in the world you create. I tell you this little story now because it's interesting to me, and I don't know why I'm telling it, but it's interesting to me, and it's sort of, it just seems like there's something inherently cinematic about it. I run in my neighborhood, and one day I ran past this guy who was running in the other direction, an older guy, and big, you know, hulky kind of guy, really struggling. huffing and puffing. And I was kind of going down a slight hill, and he was coming up the hill, but it was very slight. And he's wearing like a headband and he's sweatshirt, and so he passes me and he goes, "Well, sure, it's all downhill that way." And I love that. I love that joke, because it's funny, because it's a funny joke, and he made a connection, and it was like a sort of witty thing to say. And so I had in my head that I like this guy. This is a cool guy, and he's my friend now. And so like a few weeks later, I'm passing by him again. I see him in the distance coming toward me, and we're going opposite ways. And I'm thinking, oh, there's the guy, that's cool. And so as we pass each other, he says, "Well, sure, it's all downhill that way." And I was like, oh, okay, He's got a repertoire, and he doesn't doesn't know. I mean, I'm not that special. He's probably said it to other people. Maybe he doesn't remember me. Maybe he doesn't remember. He's an older guy. Maybe there's some, And so, but okay, ha 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 ha. I laugh. But this time it was a little forced, my laugh, because I got all these things going on in my head. I'm disappointed. And then I pass him again. And he says it again. And this time, he's going downhill. And I'm going uphill. And so it doesn't even make any sense anymore. It's not about anything. And I started to have so much pain about this because I'm embarrassed for him, and there's something wrong with him, I think. And then it just keeps happening, and it's all downhill that way. Probably heard it 7 or 8 more times, and I start to avoid him. I see him coming, and I cross the street because and if I can't cross the street, then I look like I'm really focused on my running, and he says it anyway if he passes me, and even if I'm not looking, and I don't know why I'm telling you the story, except that I like the idea that it changes over time, and nothing has changed. What's changed is all in my head, and has to do with a realization on my character's part through time of there's no outward story here, and it can only be told in a form. It can't be told in a painting, I guess is the point I'm making. I wouldn't know how to do that, and I think that that's sort of. I mean, I'm probably reaching here to sort of say this, but I do think that that when you're doing a movie, when you're doing a screenplay, you have to know why it's a movie. And if it doesn't have to be a movie, then you shouldn't make it. Because it's very important that what you do is specific to the medium in which you're doing it, and that you utilize what's specific about that medium to do the work. And if you can't think about why it should be done this way or needs to be done this way, then it doesn't need to be done this way. And then you should figure out what it is about this, if you want to do it, that needs to be told in the form of a movie. I sincerely hope that I have something of interest or value to say tonight. I can't tell anyone how to write a screenplay, because the truth is that anything of value you might do comes from you. The way I work is not the way that you work, and the whole point of any creative act is that. What I have to offer is me. What you have to offer is you. And if you offer yourself with authenticity and generosity, I will be moved.